the thing was, in that moment, I felt this in my body. Like, I know people say, I love you, but I can't be around you right now. And I'm like, I fucking don't even feel that. I'm just like, I would rather you move to another family. And I feel that in my entire body, right? Yes. And that's considered a pretty ugly thing for a parent to say. But McGill was there too, and that always unseats me because, like, he's our steady rock.
Yes.
And I'm like, shit, if McGill's planning on rehoming this kid, we're in trouble.
He's in trouble.
Wow, yeah, I think we're all in trouble. Hello, Quanta folks, and welcome to another episode of Fark the Shoulds and Alchemising Education. We're doing Alchemising Education today, and I'm Jodie from Quanta Mama.
Hi, and I'm Kerry from Quanta Mama.
So, Kez, it's just laying the topic on me right now. I have no idea, so I'm handing it over to you. Here's the baton, my darling.
Oh, my Lord, this is good. So I was just pondering the other day when I was thinking about when we struggle as adults and kids struggle with emotional intelligence, when we're both in that sort of position about how much grace we show to ourselves, which then how much grace do we give to our children when they're struggling? Because I know that's something that I've really tussled with over time, and I'm learning in my adult years to show more grace towards myself when emotionally I'm not perhaps coping with something. And it then made me think about, our beautiful kids in which we expect so much of them. And I think about the child who's on the floor screaming of the supermarket.
Yep.
And the mum who's absolutely mortified that everyone's staring at her.
Yeah.
And going, look at that parent. She's got no control, or what's going on with that child, or that child's being naughty. And I kind of think, we show grace often to the children on the supermarket floor, but where do we show grace to ourselves?
Yes.
In those moments when we're feeling out of alignment, or where we're not doing something that lights us up, or we're being forced to do something when we don't want to do it. So it really made me think about how we role model to our children.
Yes.
Because we need to focus on us first in order to be able to show our children how to manage that.
So what are we calling this one, Keza? That's a very long title.
I know. It's a really long title.
I know Spotify's going to cope with that.
It's definitely a...
Are we talking aligned parenting?
Aligned parenting is...
Being the adult in the room?
Yes, the adult in the room.
Being the adult. I don't want to do that. Yeah.
It's about being the example and giving grace
yes.
to everybody involved.
Well, being the example is a beautiful phrase. So let's go with that one.
Sure,
okay,
let's go with that.
Welcome everyone. Today's podcast title is Being the Example in Alchemising Education. But we're really talking, I guess, because we talk about alchemising education, we think of education as quite broad in this sense, don't we? And I feel like in this space, we're actually talking about how we are like just better humans showing up in a more aligned space and a more authentic space. Yeah. So talk more about this. Talk more about, being the example. What does that mean on the ground?
Yeah, well, being the example is, I feel, it still also goes back to living in alignment as well. So that when we are...
Can we break that down for people though? What does living in alignment mean?
Well, doing things that light us up, doing things that feel work with our strengths.
Yep.
Doing things that really pique our interest, doing things where we feel we are adding value, certainly not doing something just because we're forced to.
Yeah.
Or doing things because we should, because we've got, societal expectations and programs around things.
Yep.
And I think being really aware of all of those things is just so important, because when we're aware of where we're in alignment versus where we're out of alignment, then our I guess almost our behaviour and our children's behaviours reflect that.
Yeah.
So when I think about a child who's doing something because they should, or because their mums asked them to, or because the teachers asked them to, or because the siblings told them, let's go and do this, this is fun, and you kind of go, no.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. But then they do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then they feel this this sense within their body somewhere. Generally, it's an anxious feeling. Often that's the stomach. And you're kind of going, I don't want to do this, or it doesn't feel right to me, but oh, hang on, I've got so and so telling me that I should do it, and that it's normal to do it. But actually, where do I get a say in saying, no, I don't really feel like that? And so I recognize that it's important to push ourselves and sometimes do things that are outside of our comfort zone. But I feel like what's happening far too often at the moment is that we are asking of ourselves and our children to do a lot of things that don't feel in alignment to them. So they get this body reaction, or they get this nervousness or this fear that rises up, and yet, oh, hang on, what's wrong with me if I don't do this, And so, what was our topic again? What do we call it?
No, you're doing great. Keep going. Be an example.
Being an example. So I was thinking about the alignment element. Okay. Yeah, it was. But being the example around knowing when we don't want to do something and being okay with that, and giving grace to the fact that sometimes we're not coping when we do say yes to something, or when we are doing something that doesn't feel right for us. So I think as parents, we need to set that example and sometimes be prepared to say, no, thank you. That's not for me. Or I actually really just need to nourish myself today. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm feeling exhausted. And I'm actually just going to go and sit underneath that tree and just take some moments in silence and just try and self-regulate myself, which we're not good at doing in society these days. We're too rushed. We're too busy. We're too much noise.
I hear you. And I loved all of that, and I want you to know that I wanted to jump in multiple times. It was like seeing this beautiful, welcoming pool and wanting to dive in multiple times and have fun. There was so much gold in there. So I want to unpack some of this because there was a lot in there, but it's quite circular in terms of what you're talking about. So this idea of being the example, which I think is so important, it feeds into radical responsibility, self-responsibility. It feeds into farking the shoulds, which is what we're all about. And something that dropped in when you were talking about that was the idea that farking the shoulds, or that anxiety, they're inextricably linked. And it's this thing that I think we discount all the time, this phrase of gut instinct. But it does. That anxiety, generally speaking, will register in the body, usually down the gut, which is, part of that intuitive space where our body can actually notice when things don't feel right for us, or what we would term in alignment. And I am, as you know, like a believer that we're a community of cells. I'm not a believer of that. That's a fact. But I'm a believer that community of cells can register truth and, distruth or untruth, or whatever the phrase is, like in a speed that we can't even fathom, right, on a conscious level. So we feel that anxiety, yes, we notice that sort of feeling in the gut, but what's actually happening is the entire body is lit up with, that's a no from me. And we don't even need to understand it. The mind says, show me the reason, show me the fact. And then the programming in society then says, ignore that, push through that. And I literally had this conversation with Quanta Kid 2 the other day, because she's been horse riding, and it's that really interesting space of what's a no and what's new and uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And that's tricky sometimes.
That's right. And she has been in that space of stretching herself, because her horse riding is just going through the roof, right? She's being tutored by this really amazing woman who's very experienced, who recognizes that discomfort of newness and pushes her through. But the other day she was in a space where that woman wasn't there to guide her and give that feedback, and her whole body was just going no, and the horse was responding too.
Yes, they do.
Right? Because the horses are really intuitive. So it's showing up going, I can feel that you're anxious. And so what I was saying to her was, that's an opportunity to do something different and see if that changes in the body. So I didn't want to be prescriptive, but I want to wake her up to the fact that that's your feedback, right? And the, karma or the universe or the quantum field will bitch slap you if you keep ignoring that. Like, if you don't respond to the pebble,
Yep.
you'll get a stone. If you
Yes.
don't respond to the stone, you'll get a brick. And
Absolutely.
God forbid if you get a boulder. Like a boulder, that's
Or a
like
meteorite.
correct. That's just nuking the whole lot, right? So
Totally.
where do you want to be in concert with the universal field or with the quantum field, which is, the soup that we're all in, all interconnected. And so what I reckon is the body is obviously registering that truth.
Yes.
So then when we talk about living in alignment, we get to work out where the flow is,
Yes.
being like water and so forth. And then the impact of what that is to show that to our kids and model it. So tell me about how that feels because I think lots of people will register recognition of ignoring that.
Oh, definitely.
What does it feel like to honor it though?
Well, it's really interesting because it's something that I've been paying more attention to over time, and learning to honor more and more. And of course, to start with, when you start to honor what's right for you as an individual, or what's right for you and your family, or what's right for you and your child, it can be really uncomfortable.
Is that because you're not seeing it reflected around you in society?
Yeah, I believe
in your
that.
community?
I believe that. Well, there's a lot of noise out there, isn't there? There's a lot of people sort of giving you standards by which you need to live your life by.
Yeah.
And I think that so when you start to push back against that, and you start to go, well, can I actually honor what's right for me? Can I actually do this because it's actually important to me or feels right in my body?
Yep.
And to start with, it can be like, well, certainly by acting in that way and making that choice, it's really uncomfortable, but it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more comfortable it gets and the more liberating it is. And then the more we're doing what actually makes us happy and brings us joy. And this is where I believe as parents, we need to be that example, whether it be working in a job that we're enjoying or not enjoying, kids feel it, they see it, they observe it. Someone comes home from work and they're grumpy and they're irritable or whatever it might be, or they've pushed through even if they're sick because they think I've got to go to work. I can't take a sick day. So, and we're living that and our children are picking that up. And so then they end up doing what we do. I mean, we know that. They pick up the good and the bad, right? Whether we like it or not. Monkey see, monkey do.
We often notice the bad, not good.
Absolutely. So I think to start with, when we start honoring what's important to us, and we start to realize the value of it and how much peace it brings within our body, then they see that, we do that, and we can start to mirror it for each other.
That's so true.
Just flexing that muscle, the more we do it, the easier it becomes, and the more liberated it is towards living a life that's right for us.
Well, we were talking about how, and I don't know if it just applies to girls, but how it seems girls particularly do people pleasing a lot.
Yes.
So, I mean, I actually suspect probably it's across the gamut, but we see it more in girls because they, society's set up for them to acquiesce a bit more and, look pretty and not say much. And I mean, I know that obviously the feminism thing and all that is in there, but but very much so, women are not celebrated for being loud and ostentatious or knowing their own mind, are they? So the undercurrent of people pleasing is very strong, and often with the people pleasing there's probably a whole lot of shoulds in there as well.
Absolutely.
So they're constantly getting feedback from their body going, this is not right, this is not right. And I suspect
that becomes the normal then.
They condition themselves,
that feeling. And this is why we wonder why there's so much anxiety out there. The anxiety is coming from exactly that place. So and it becomes normal.
Absolutely. And so then we live with this undercurrent of anxiety all the time, that we are doing our best. We sort of go, the body goes, all right, so we're just going to live with that anxiety. So let's just turn the dimmer switch down on the feedback, as in turn the dimmer switch up. You know what I mean? Dim it more is what I'm trying to inarticulately say. More coffee, thank you very much.
It is early.
It is early. But we dim that feedback. And the thing about the mind and the body is it is so clever. It says it's like the original AI, except it's it is actually nature. So we'll call it nature's intelligence in that case, right?
Yes.
So it's the original NI in that sense. So what happens is the mind and body says, oh, you don't need that. Okay, cool. We're just going to drop that alarm down. So it's just hanging around in the background. You've got this constant kind of tumbling anxiety that's sitting there because you don't honour what's right for you, what's your truth. You don't, honour your yeses. You definitely don't honour your no's. And so that sits there. And then what does that lead to? Dis-ease, right? The answer is in the name.
It is.
It's disease. And so then we have this plight of mental health illness, a crap ton of autoimmune illnesses, which are all stress related. Get that through your head.
Yes.
They're all stress related. So that is the body responding to, well, for F's sake, you're not going to listen to the alarm. Then in that case, this stuff's going to get down-regulated over here. Will that get your attention? And then we get a diagnosis, back to labels, we get a diagnosis of an autoimmune illness. I mean, I actually cannot believe the gaslighting that happens in our Western society, this panacea of take a pill, go talk to a therapist, right? And I'm not denigrating therapists, but I'm like, get back to the root cause.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where is the lack of alignment in your body?
Yes.
And something else, I'm on a ban. I'm on a roll here.
Love it.
Okay. So the other thing that I really loved that you were talking about, which I think we can get caught up with this false spiritual movement that's out there, right? And I call it a false spiritual movement, which is you've got to go do what you love and yada, 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 and just shine your light wherever you are. And I'm like, firstly, some effers don't deserve your light. So take your light elsewhere, right? If it's a crappy, dank, dark, poorly cared for environment, go shine your light somewhere else. You don't need to hang out there. That's number one. Number two, you may have that response of, well, I don't have the option to go get another job.
Yes.
Like there's a whole bunch of reasons why I have to do the job. Yes. And so then the radical responsibility comes around to perspective.
Yes.
So where you say about living in alignment, it's not just about going and getting your dream job. That is possible, and it's probable.
People achieve it, yeah.
They absolutely achieve it, and there are examples, right?
Yes.
But if there is a dissonance and you can't hook into that, then that's not right for you right then. Yep. And so you must, to live in alignment, find the gold in your current predicament.
Yes.
Not just gratitude, you got to find the gold. Like the gratitude is the response of being, thankful for being in that space and going, gosh, I love my shitty job because I get to eat. Minor details of life. But whatever it is, however you want to phrase it, however you want to find the humour, the lightness, the alignment, but you get to show up in that space and bring all of you, right? Yep. And then nature will assemble itself because if you're not meant to stay in that job, something else will come up.
Yes, totally.
But we don't have any trust in that process, right? So then we don't even trust in the alignment of how the universal energies can support us.
Yes.
And we just kind of think, oh, we'll do a vision board and therefore I'll be a supermodel. I mean, no, I'm just saying. Probably not at 49 anyway. But I do think that we've been kind of misguided into the simplicity of it, and it actually, we cheat ourselves. You know what I mean? Like and the body, which is always registering the truth.
Yes.
It picks up on that cheating, doesn't it? And as you say, our kids are so bloody perceptive to what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're intermingled from an energetic perspective.
Yes.
Like the energy field for those that are sort of just getting their head around this, because these are like
big concepts.
Decent topics. Your energy field will sit somewhere around the 1.5 to 3 metre mark, depending on how you are. Obviously, the more down-regulated you get, the more it shrinks back into the skin sac, right? Yeah. But when you're sort of feeling like you're in alignment, it can really balloon out, and you can feel that, right? Totally. They're the people you walk in. They walk in the room, and you're like, whoa.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean, they're naturally magnetic,
aren't they? Yes.
So you can feel that. So that exists. It is potential for all of us.
Totally.
Isn't it? So then when you're sitting in that space, then people who are in your vicinity, just like we are, we're just, we're getting our energies all mixed up. Good for you.
Love it.
All right, I'll get you a cigarette after. Not really, smoking's bad.
Yeah.
But there's that intermingling of energies, right? And so that's why you vibe off people.
Yeah.
But your kids, I think, are always intermingled with that.
Absolutely.
Because they're connected with you in a different way.
Totally.
They're kin, right? So they're constantly feeling that. So I can see even Quanta Kid 4, and he's out there doing something moderately dangerous. I literally can see him right now doing that. And I'm just like, okay, because I know I'm connected with him, I'm like, stay upright, stay whole, stay with the amount of holes you've got in your body and don't add any extras right now. Just...
I'm not looking.
No, you don't need to know. It's all right. We'll deal with it if blood comes spurting out. I think it'll be okay. He's very robust. But my point is that we get to exercise that. So that's actually a really amazing thing, isn't it? It's a bit like twins. And they can be on opposite sides of the world and they can still be hooked into each other energetically. They can feel each other's feelings. They can show up symptomatically when one's sick, the other one will show up.
Amazing.
Wild.
But
wild, but actually just proof of what we're saying. So how then do you on a daily basis, because I know you're into radical responsibility, how do you do this?
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely.
Modelling it to the kids.
Radical self-responsibility is everything, isn't it?
Isn't
and that's
it?
something that we don't pay enough attention to either. I've become much more aware of my choices and how I behave and how I interact, and so that when something's not kind of working for me, or I'm feeling like it's just I'm the energy is becoming negative and frustrated, and there's a build-up of I won't say goodness, probably badness.
We'll call it energy.
We'll just call it energy.
Got some fire?
Yeah, got some fire happening. And I just sort of think that it's about stepping away.
Yeah.
It's about just taking a step away and trying to just go back into feeling that, I wouldn't say peace, but maybe calm in the body, and just recognizing where perhaps my actions are not demonstrating grace.
Yeah.
Not demonstrating grace. Doesn't mean that I always manage to do that, but that's certainly what I am, learning to do more and more of, is just stepping away, not feeling like I have to stay in there and fight, or I'm not sort of saying fight with the other, but
no, you mean like react.
Myself.
Yeah,
react. It's just take a step back and try and just understand where we need to show ourselves grace. Because I think if we demonstrate that to our children, then they learn to do it for themselves. And this is being that example is so important on so many levels, that we know we are radically responsible.
Yes.
They then learn that as well.
Yes.
And I just feel like we just need to make sure we show that grace of being the example and just being kinder to ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because if we're really hard on ourselves, which I have been that person who's just, judged myself harshly and been, hugely critical of decisions I've made or where I am and what I'm doing it for. And again, I've just recognised that our children watch that.
Yep.
And then when they get older, and even when they're young, they mirror it back to us. The gold is when we see ourselves in that mirror and we go, ooh, okay, I've been a part of that. I've demonstrated that for them. So no wonder that's what they're demonstrating.
That's right.
So I think it's really important just to be able to recognise where we're feeling out of alignment, or where we're not, or where we're doing things that are for shoulds and to people please. I've been a great people pleaser, massive.
Well, it's good to be good at something.
Well, it is, but not when it's at the expense of yourself.
No, I know.
This is the thing, isn't it? And this is where we've just learnt to accept that as being okay.
Yeah, and then we accept the ensuing illness or whatever it might be
Yes.
as well. The stress, depression, anxiety, all these very handy diagnoses that are actually just symptoms of life being lived out of alignment.
Absolutely.
So there was something that you said God, what was it? There was so many
would have
good
been
things.
gold.
It was all gold. I mean, is there anything this woman, she just spits gold basically the whole time.
And look, it comes from experience, all of this stuff. So I really want our listeners to just be mindful that, I don't know where they're at with their kids. You've got younger kids than me, and the goal between the two of us is the fact that I'm sort of a few steps ahead.
Yeah.
And I can start to see where, if I was to go back and do it again, I would do a lot of things differently.
Yeah.
So this is coming purely from,
Yes.
lived experience.
That's right.
So I just want, everyone to just be gentle on themselves.
Well, because you've tried both, right?
I've tried both.
Until you see beyond the sort of mirage of what's actually been happening, this spell that we're under, that we need to behave in a certain way to be good citizens. Because living in alignment doesn't mean that you're not thinking about your community. You are thinking about your community, because when you're living in alignment, you're a better community member.
Absolutely.
So it's actually not this selfish situation where you're going, all my needs are more important than everyone else's. It's just like, I need to honour what is right for me and what's my yes in that moment. And it did come back to me. So the thing that you were saying that I really loved is that showing grace, because I think what happens often, and McGill and I have this conversation, because Quanta Kid 4 is freaking hot. He's like dragon fire in a kid's body. Yeah, he's an absolute firecracker. And with that energy, we're assigning a good or bad to it, because it doesn't feel great when he's in his fiery state. And then he has these moments of absolute tenderness that you would assume is not possible for such asaholic behaviour, right? And so part of that showing grace is, it's not actually acceptance. No. We're not condoning the behaviour, but it's this thing that you've talked about before, which is hanging on to the rope of the child, so you hang on to the child's rope and you just give them a bit more. And so that idea of changing your environment, stepping back, is potent, right? Because it's like, I'm not disconnecting from you. I'm stepping further back because your energy field is so big right now that I need to give myself space so I can still model what I want you to be.
Correct.
And what I want me to be as well, right? So it's that being that example. And, we had this thing, I actually find real benefit in voicing the ugly stuff, because I know I don't really mean it. So, the last couple of days, McGill and I were both feeling Quanta Kid's firiness, right? Just over the F-bombs. This kid is just, if you could actually do a subject in the curriculum on swearing, he would be like an A++ student. He'd be into university now. He's so good at swearing.
He's good at words, isn't he? Like, his mastery is words. So that's where the swearing is at the moment.
That's right.
It will develop into...
So we're technically doing languages.
You are. Yes.
We're doing a universal language that's not very well received and not appreciated.
It's his own language.
It is his own. But the thing was, in that moment, I felt this in my body. Like, I know people say, I love you, but I can't be around you right now. And I'm like, I fucking don't even feel that. I'm just like, I would rather you move to another family. And I feel that in my entire body, right? Yes. And that's considered a pretty ugly thing for a parent to say. But McGill was there too, and that always unseats me, because, like, he's our steady rock.
Yes.
And I'm like, shit, if McGill's planning on rehoming this kid, we're in trouble.
He's in trouble.
Wow, yeah, I think we're all in trouble. But I said to him, this thing that came through that it was very much for me as well, was when Quanta Kid 4 is in that space of pushing everyone away, like with this language that feels vulgar and violent and all those things. He's using his energy up because he's doing an outpouring of energy because he doesn't know what else to do with it.
Correct.
It must feel huge in his body. You can see the heat coming off him, right? He's bright red, he's sweating, it's not even hot enough for that. So you can see that there's this, extra energy. So then we look beyond that, and I said to McGill, this is the time he needs us the most. He needs to know that he is safe to move this energy, because he doesn't need that in himself. We already know that we're very well versed on the down regulation that stress does to the body. So if he was in a calm state, we would say, hey, kid, you're always welcome to vent your energy, because it does nothing to put it in the rubbish bin on the body.
That's right.
So that will come back and slap you later on. So you don't need that rubbish bin. Get rid of it and move it out. And then in that moment of him moving it out, we're like, oh, we don't like this kid anymore.
Yes,
so
I know.
It's a bit of fair weather parenting.
Yes, it really is. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a reminder to show that grace in that moment, even if the best you can do is to go silent and just think about him in his tender moments.
Yes.
Because underneath all that energy that your kid is expressing is that tender soul that you know to exist as well.
Absolutely. And maybe take it one step further and consider yourself in that tender way as well, because often we're getting riled up because there feels this sense of judgment that is our child being raised in a way that he's going to turn out
successful
okay.
parenting.
It's that successful parenting, right?
Yeah, I'm going to get marked down for this one.
Yeah, and will we ever get out of this stage?
Yeah.
And are we doing okay? So it's taking the grace for both of you in that moment, which is not easy, but that's by taking that step away and just going, oh, okay. Love for myself, love for the child.
Yes.
You know, and just trying to know that we are all doing the best that we can.
Well, and love for those around us that judge the situation.
Absolutely.
Because in fact, their judgment is a judgment on themselves as well.
Yes.
Isn't it?
It's like the kid in the supermarket aisle who's throwing the tantrum. You know, some people come past and go, oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, that poor little boy. I feel his pain. Yeah. And others are going, oh, God, that mother doesn't have that child under control.
Yeah, that's right.
So there is a lot of judgment, and we just need to take away that judgment.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And
just know that how could we do that? Like, how could we, let's start a movement, Keza. How can we do that? I'm going, not that everyone will want this, but I'm like, in that moment, what do I need most? And I'm like, I need someone to come up and say, do you want a hug?
Oh,
like, imagine being
amazing?
that mother in the supermarket and someone comes up and they say to you, would you like a hug? And you'd be like, yes, because then my community gets me. Oh, God, it almost makes me want to cry.
Yes, yeah.
It does make me want to cry because I do think it's so isolating. And exactly right. What you said was so right. We build those walls of judgment around us. And people might not be. They might be in a space of going, wow, that kid's having a rough day.
Yes.
I'm so glad I'm not that mother.
Yes.
That's what I normally think.
Absolutely. But I would often talk, I mean, you know me, I would stop and say to that mother, I would say something to just reassure them that because I've been there and I felt that judgment and the kid is loved by that mother, may not feel it or the mother may not feel like loving them, but there's a genuine love and a desire to protect that child. But it's the mother who needs it. Jodes is tearing up everybody.
Because I've never seen that in action. I find that to be remarkable.
Yes.
I am not surprised in the least that you are that person that takes action
Well,
on
I haven't
that.
done a hug, but maybe next time I would, because I do know that the parents in that moment, the only way they can help that child is for them to feel supported, and that is that role of being in community.
Yes.
So, maybe next time I'll give it a hug and I'll report back in.
I'd be so interested. So just before you venture off this, how were the words received? Do the parents register that, or is it a bit impenetrable at that moment?
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit of both. Sometimes I've had the response of, oh, thanks. Like, I just needed to hear that.
Yep.
And some just don't even see or hear you. Like, they're just so in that moment that it's almost like there's, for them, maybe shame. And they can't even look at you. It's a survival mechanism where they're just completely, and they're just sort of, grabbing that child or trying to get that child off the ground or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm not just talking about the supermarket. It's a lot of places where we see it.
The supermarkets feels like the most obvious one that happens.
It feels most public, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And you've got a long way back to the car.
That's
a long way home.
Yeah, and you got to handle a trolley. Like,
and
it's
you've
the
got a
whole
trolley
thing.
as well. It's really hard.
Yeah, and there are cameras everywhere, so you can't manhandle your child. Even though you want to.
Yeah. And plenty do, because they're just in that state of absolute despair. So, it is that grace for ourselves as well as our kids. I think we really need to, and we need to teach them that. Because when they're kids, if they're not learning it as kids, then when do they learn to do it for themselves as adults? And I think there's room for more practice in that one in our society, I think, to just, have a bit more grace and and just be the example for our children, and know that we're not going to always get it right. We're not gonna
Oh,
always
definitely
get it
not. I
right.
mean, that's the human experience. So I want to just wrap up with, give me an example of when you have borne witness to your kids or kid demonstrating exactly what it is you want for them, when they have made a choice that appeared to be in alignment.
Oh gosh.
I'm intentionally putting you on the spot because I know this is happening in your household, but what comes up immediately when you think of that? When have you seen your kid just go and you were like, successful parenting, tick?
Oh gosh, I'm just gone completely blank. I kind of wonder whether it's about not. I think if I maybe use the example, and I'm not sure yet, the example of getting out in nature and getting involved in the veggie garden, and it was something that I, try to demonstrate and encourage enormously. And I think when you just start doing it yourself, they then just sort of start getting out there and showing interest as well. So it's about not expecting it of them. It's got to come, it's got to come from them.
Yeah, they've got to initiate it in their own time.
They've got to want to, and they've got to want to do it their way. I think one of the most powerful things is giving them options to do it their way rather than our way. And I know as a parent, when I was certainly younger, I used to feel like I had to always demonstrate to them the right way. Oh my gosh, have they shown us that
they've got a different right way?
They've got a different right way and they want to do it their way. So and this is being that example of allowing them to find it their way, much like we need to find things our way. So when it comes to things in the garden at the moment, and our garden, our veggie garden is thriving, which is amazing, and I'm loving it. I've really had to take a step back and not say, have you watered today? Do you think they need to be netted today because the butterflies are out, or does it have enough soil, or just any questions? It's like, just step right back and let them discover it for themselves. And so that way they're empowered by that experience, and I'm not the one. That they're learning to tune into what they like doing and how they like to do it and when they like to do it. So I've just had to zip it, which is really hard for me. I'm sure you'll
It's
find
been
it
a big
hard.
change for you. I mean, because you love to talk and you love to be considerate and you love to ask questions, which is
And
why
I love
you
to
were
help.
curious for so long, right? And you
yes.
do, and you love to be of assistance. I mean, that's
Yes.
sort of part of your love language of being of
Yes.
service. So
Yes.
it's really interesting. And I do think, without talking out of turn, one thing that your daughter said, who I think was a classic people pleaser like all of us, she turned around and she said, I'm doing it my way, Mum, or something along those lines. And I think she said that to you on numerous occasions.
Absolutely.
But apart from the jolt of that statement, when you're thinking, all the stories behind is, well, I'm trying to help. This is how I show my love. I'm here with you. How will you know that I'm here with you if I'm not here with you? So all of that stuff behind, that's all behind the motivation of you wanting to help, was her saying, I got it.
I got it, and I want to do it this way.
And I want to do it.
I want to experience it. I want to learn for myself. I want to know if this works. I want to feel empowered.
So that's a graduate of being people pleased. Because she's now talking to her safest person and saying, I got it. I don't need that. And then you get to trust in that. I mean, that's where I've seen examples of where this being the example in your household has really taken flight. And one thing that I'll just close with as well was I think that we haven't had levels of crises in our family to provide that contrast with the kids. But one thing that did happen was that some might follow that our daughter manifested herself an effing horse. And I'm just like, what? Are you serious? I don't want to be a part horse owner.
But you were saying that. You were saying, I'm not going to do this. She can create this for herself.
Yeah, I send it out to the universe, and next thing you know, she gets given a horse and a place to adjust it. Anyway, we're 6 months down the track, and she's turned around and she's gone, actually, I think I'm going to rehome the horse. And I'm like, huh? Aren't you thankful that the universe gifted you a horse? Can't you just be happy with that? And so it was all that stuff anyway. I remembered some grace, thank you. And all I said to her was, because you could see all the emotion, she was a little bit being driven by the emotion of it, and you could see that she was being caught one way than the other, and she was sort of thinking about it rather than actually
feeling it.
Yeah, feeling it. So I said to her, go and whole body muscle test, because we love whole body muscle testing in our house. And so I sent her off, and I didn't say anything else, right? I just literally went, go and muscle test it, and just whatever questions come through, ask them and get answers.
Yep.
And what was really interesting was that then she came back and she had the pathway worked out with options A, B, C, D and E all available to her, like it was like a triaged kind of option list. And she got to own all of that. And so we're in the process of working through the layers of those. But it was only because I remembered not to intervene in her experience, because I'm like, she manifested this bloody horse. It's not for me to now get involved. And so all she really wanted from me, and she said this to me, might have been this morning, she just came up and she gave me a hug and she said, thank you for listening for all of this. And I was like, well, it's actually a pretty easy gig, actually, kid.
That's all they need, isn't
That's
it?
all she needed.
All they need.
She literally just, and so part of me being the example, as you have so beautifully described, was I literally needed to shut my trap and just let her work it out. And the only thing I did was I dropped ideas about how to get her truth out. And that's why I love whole body muscle testing, because from my experience is it always shows up the truth. And you'll get an answer, you'll be like, ugh, wasn't expecting that. But that's when I know it's probably the truth.
Absolutely.
And the trickery of the mind is just trying to throw us off, and the programming to be a good girl, and the programming to do a should, and all the other stuff. And the body goes, nah, we're immune to those.
And what I love about this, like muscle testing is a whole nother podcast really, but I just feel like we have the answers inside ourselves, and so do our kids.
They absolutely do.
They know. So that when we demonstrate that we have our own answers, this is the example, when we know that we have the answers inside of ourselves, our kids have it too. We just need to give them the space to learn how to do that. They do. It's so powerful.
The vehicle of registration, and then they get to take action. And in fact, when you have the experience of taking action on things like, say, however you register the truth in yourself, and it might be obviously farking a should. Once you take action on that, you realise it's actually safe on the other side, and not only is it safe, but you feel better because the alignment, you feel that in the body, you register it. So there's a lot of power in the fact that it can be quite intoxicating and addictive to start honouring that alignment. And it makes it easier, and we just start unpacking the programming that we have been gifted in this society to keep us compliant and quiet and ticking the community along. You can actually impact in a very profound way, and it can be as simple as just a no.
Absolutely. Be the example. Say no a bit more often. Kids feel really empowered by watching us do that.
They do. And I reckon they're faster at registering that too, because as soon as they go, oh, mum and dad have finally caught up with what I've worked out already.
Doesn't that make them feel amazing?
I know. Oh, good stuff. Have you got any final thoughts since this was your baby that you wanted to birth with our Quanta folks?
I just think we're all in this together. I just think we need to remember that, our kids are wise, they are knowing, and we need to give them the opportunity to demonstrate that for themselves. And sometimes we need to demonstrate it for them to show them what it looks like. And to, just, be that example so that then they can also do it and to empower them, because that's what it's all about. Our kids are so wise. They just need to believe that.
That's
to be
good
true.
stuff. It's good stuff. So be the example. Trust your instincts. Trust yourself. Embody love and fark the shoulds.
Thank you, Quanti folks. See you soon.
See you, peeps. Hey, Quanta folks. The conversations that we have about alchemising education are underpinned by our amazing Take the Leap course for parents, which is all about deschooling the parents. If you're keen to deep dive more, then check out the quantummama.com website and find the Take the Leap course. This course is beautiful because it will give you an opportunity to examine where your programs are, where you're creating limiting beliefs and expectations for your child, and it ultimately frees you to be the best advocate for your child that you can be. And that's all of us can ever want for our children, just to love, nurture and watch them become the most incredible individuals that we already know them to be. So more info, head to quantummama.com.